There he
Rubes.
is.
All right.
Fitzy, I wore green for you. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Belated.
Well, same to you, Michael Patrick Rooney. How are you today?
I even went bucket hat for the start of the. Yeah,
Oh,
let's go. Come on now.
where's my bucket hat, Kyle? I'm going to send a protest.
Yeah, you ought to because let's go.
Let's
This
go. It's go time. You look like you're ready. You're ready for some hot days in the Arizona sunshine.
so ready, so ready. I have you know who got me ready and was one of whom was on this call. Look at Cooper Johnson in the house. Was Jason Ruffcorn and Jackson Wiggins got me so fired up on Tuesday night. That was redonkulous, the stuff they were throwing up there.
Yeah. I heard reports of triple digits. I don't know if that's confirmed or not confirmed, but there's some. They got a few arms over there in Arkansas, don't they?
Yeah, and OU was awesome. It was, I said it on the broadcast, we get to see what OU looks like when they get quality starting pitching. The little lefty, Braden Carmichael, he was a bad agent that night. Just like up-tempo, shoving strikes, 4 pitches, totally fearless. And then, yeah, that OU bullpen, the Goodman kid, or is it Godman, he was really good. And then Ruffcorn was ridiculous. I mean, Ruffcorn, as good as Wiggins was, Ruffcorn one-upped him, which I didn't even think was physically possible. It was awesome.
That's impressive. I mean, he was our first team preseason All-American closer. So I mean, it's a guy that has had a lot of success in his career. But it sounds like the stuff is real, man.
Yep. Fitzy, so I hope you stretched before this because we're about to go where no man or woman has gone before. That might be hyperbole, but we're going to try and have 3 people on the Instagram Live tonight. So we're gonna see if
This
it
is
can be done.
uncharted territory.
Totally
And I got to
uncharted.
tell you, I did not get a chance to stretch because I'm sore. I got my first COVID shot today, and I
Ooh.
feel like I can't move my arm very far. It's but it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm gonna be out there flying again in no time.
Does it feel like you got a flu shot, like kind of like that kind of soreness in your arm?
Yeah. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's
Yeah.
certainly manageable.
Love it. Fitzy, so in the background for me, probably for you too, we've got the great Tommy Hart and Berkey, our boy Berkey, doing a Thursday night game on SEC Network. That is a beautiful thing as well.
Yeah. Welcome back, SEC baseball. It looks like it's all Gators so far.
And we, this week on the podcast, I dogged the Gators. I don't know why I did that. Somebody take my keys. And then Tuesday night or Wednesday night, they were terrible. And so I was feeling really froggy, feeling really good about myself. And now tonight, I'm feeling not so good about my prediction.
You know what I love about you, Runes, is you're not afraid to just rush into a hot
No,
take based on
give me all the
based on
takes
the way the wind is
caliente.
blowing.
Yes, yes.
But I mean I like it because I mean I'm racking up future wins on the bet board. I mean I
Right.
can't wait to collect when we get to Omaha.
The only smart thing I did on the dogging of the Gators was I only bet a bottle of water on it. That was the only rational part of that whole situation.
Hashtag hedging.
Yes, hashtag gutless. Um, Fitzy, how about you promoting some jerky on Twitter tonight? Please explain. That was fantastic.
Well, I got to tell you, I think I'd sent out a tweet that mentioned jerky in passing a couple weeks ago, and I got a response from Marla Goldberg, who's the mother of Brad Goldberg, used to pitch at Coastal Carolina and Ohio State. He's now on the Ohio State coaching staff, but she runs a jerky company, Smoke and Oak, and she's like, "I'll send you some jerky." And I said, "I'm not going to turn down free jerky." So
No, heck no.
it arrived yesterday, and it was awesome. I mean, I'm an unpaid endorser here. I swear by the product.
Well, this Instagram Live on Thursday nights is not sponsored yet, so Smoke and Oak, come on down.
Come on down. We got room for you.
Yes. Hey, now, Fitzy, so I think Kendall is on the live, so this is not us talking smack about him. If he's not on the live, we're going to do it anyway. So I came at you with some heat and just talked some ridiculous smack on our staff picks last week. And you, like the cool customer that you are, you didn't bite, you didn't engage, you just went out and made good picks. I was more focused on the smack talk than good picks. And, of course, I went 2 and 3. And I think you went 4 and 1. Is that correct?
I did 4-1. I'm back in business. I'm now tied with you and Kendall after all your strutting around like St. Peter's peacocks, and here you are tied with lowly old Fitzy.
Hashtag strut yo stuff. But
That's
now
right.
here's the point I want to make, Fitzy, is that our good friend KR Kendall immediately came at me about my smack talk, which was deserved. That was the right play. But then he kind of intimated that he was way out there in first place. And, I think there was a Jim the King Lawler gif. And then next thing you know, you fact-checked the standings, and me, and Kendall were tied, and none of us were in first place.
That's right. It's the West Coast, the SoCal boys. Eric and Shotgun, I think, are both a game ahead of us. So it's been a volatile first month here in the picks. It's going to be a wild ride.
I know. And Kendall didn't think you were going to fact-check him. And he just threw that out there that he was dominating, and we take a closer look at the standings and not so much. So I like it. That's how they roll in the Republic of Texas.
Kendall's all bravado. That's not the guy you want with you in a bar fight, Runes, because he's gonna throw a couple of haymakers and he's gonna duck and run.
Or as he tells the story, he's going to just continue to eat his omelet is what's going to happen when the bar fight's going on.
Good point.
Yeah, so we're going to have the great Patrick Ebert on tonight, which is going to be fantastic. I got to keep an eye on the time. Our Midwest, our West Coast guys always crush it, but the Midwest guys are killing it this year as well. Fitzy, Burt Granger, Patrick, I've been loving their stuff. Yeah,
they're really getting after it, and we kind of made a point of emphasis to try to increase our footprint in the Midwest. A couple of years ago, we brought in Burke and Nick Valeris, and Patrick has kind of slid into Nick's role. And those guys really, they're working hard. If you like college baseball in the Midwest and you're not subscribing to D1Baseball, then you're doing it wrong. Every week they got a great notebook piece and a Midwest power rankings, and they're beating the bushes out there. I like to tell a story of Joe Rock threw that no-hitter for Ohio, and it's like February and it's like 30 degrees, and we had a guy there in the ballpark because Burke is out there grinding, man, and those guys really love the game and they're doing a great job.
Hey, one other thing, Fitzy, I need to mention is David Seifert for us, who, by the way, is an unreal scout. Every time we're on a chat and I type in analysis of a player and Seif's on the chat, I'm always feeling like, okay, dang it, this is the one where he's gonna very politely say, Runes, you're so clueless, you need to maybe check yourself. But he's not. He's always very cordial. But the way he sees the game is so much better than the way I feel like I see the game, meaning that I feel like I see the game fine. He sees the game supernatural level. I love hearing his insights. But we're pumping up the velo guys, which, that makes sense. But he did the control artist thing this week, which I thought was so awesome. I am so on board with that. It's like the tribute to the future Thomas Eshelmans of college baseball.
Yeah, he's the patron saint for the control artists, and we got some good ones. I saw Jordan Marks last week for USC Upstate, and it's a guy that, if you look at his strikeout walk over the last two seasons since the start of 2020, I think it's 64-3 or some crazy thing.
Wow.
But he does it with stuff. It was up to 95 or 6, and 3-pitch mix and comes at you. So there are guys like that. If you combine power stuff and that kind of control, that's what made Landon Knapp such a high pick, a few years ago. I don't think that Marks' stuff is quite what Knapp's stuff was, but he's kind of in that mold. And so if you're looking for a draft sleeper, find a guy that throws hard and throws strikes.
Yes, give us both of that. It was interesting. I have a Notre Dame game this weekend, and we got to talk to Monty Lee, or not Monty Lee. Monty Lee's being asked about in the chat there. We had to talk to Link Jarrett, who's done an unreal job at Notre Dame, and he talked a lot about one of his philosophies is it's not that he's opposed to recruiting velocity, but he really wants pitchability that he feels like his strength and conditioning team can then help gain velocity. And, that's the chicken and the egg argument in recruiting pitching, right? Do you recruit velocity and teach them to repeat better? Do you recruit pitchability and teach them, just help them with strength and conditioning? Every time I talk to Link Jarrett, I'm more impressed. Just how thoughtful he is about building a program. It's really incredible.
Yeah, he's the real deal. And I think that's an interesting point, that he made. And just looking back to the last couple of years, we've seen examples of guys who, as their stuff has made a jump, their command has made a jump alongside it. Bryce Jarvis talked a lot about that when he was at Duke. He always had the ability to miss bats with the changeup. and then the slider, but he also walked guys. And then he spent that summer with Driveline and with Cressy and working on adding fastball velocity. And as he did, all of a sudden you're throwing everything with more conviction, and you're throwing more strikes, and you have more confidence to pound the zone. And the same thing kind of happened with Bryce Mcgowan. First 2 years at Charlotte, he has a lot of walks, and he worked hard in the offseason. His stuff made a jump, and his command made a jump alongside it. That's another guy that I saw last week, who it certainly has made a nice jump from a year ago, and all that hard work's paying off.
Yeah, no question. It's what was so interesting too about Link's comments, Fitzy, was he's really convicted on offensive baseball, and he's got really definitive theories and a program, a system. That's the word I'm looking for, a system that they put in. And this is me speaking. I'm not quoting Link Jarrett, but my impression of what he's saying is, look, I'm going to run an offense. We're going to find an offense that is super diverse. There's not a kind of game that this offense isn't capable of winning. So if you kind of reverse engineer it, what he needs pitching and defense to just not wreck the game. Like, if you guys can just keep the game intact, my offense will figure out how to make this happen. But, if we're walking the yard or kicking the ball around, the game just explodes on us and we can't get there with the offense. It was so fascinating. I wish we had taped the conversation. It was really awesome.
Yeah, he's a really smart baseball guy, and it's interesting to hear you talk about, his offensive philosophy. I've always gotten that same kind of vibe from Link, even when he was at East Carolina and Auburn as a hitting coach, and of course at Greensboro, they always put up great offensive numbers. But I guess for a guy who's part of the Mike Martin coaching tree, we really shouldn't be surprised, because you talk about offensive systems. That's one thing we know about Florida State is year in and year out, they're going to be among the national leaders in walks, and they're going to hit home runs. They're going to use the opposite field. Now, they don't, as you've pointed out, Rose, they don't necessarily pick up the baseball, as consistently on a year in, year out basis, but they hit every year, and Link's teams always hit as well. And so I think that's just kind of ingrained in his DNA. Man can coach hitting.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So he's a shortstop, right? And so when he got to Notre Dame, they were really struggling defensively. And, first of all, right now, Notre Dame is fielding 991 through 9 games, which is insane. That's really not sustainable, but it's still awesome. But, think about, so Nico Cavadas was a third baseman. They moved to first base. They take Myers and Preisner in the middle infield, and they flip them, for defensive purposes. They made all these different tweaks. Brannigan, who was a freshman, who he had never played third base, but they felt like he's athletic enough. He's a high school shortstop center fielder. They move him over there. And so again, you can see that I'm clearly drunk on the Link Jarrett Kool-Aid right now, but and hey, like, they're going to play Duke this weekend. And I think Patrick's going to talk about that series, but talk about two of the hires of the last 10 years. I mean, Chris Pollard and Link Jarrett have to be in that conversation right now.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you look at what Chris Pollard has done since he arrived at Duke. I mean, to take a program that hadn't even been to a regional since the 60s, and to take them to back-to-back supers. And, yeah. I mean, it's an incredible transformation in that program and the culture of the program. And, now you kind of look at Duke as a program that you expect to win, and that's a big departure. And Notre Dame has very quickly gotten itself kind of in that same category now, where it's like you can overlook them if you want, but you do so at your own peril, because they just keep winning. It's amazing. It
is amazing. Yeah, if you had asked the Duke administration about going to a super regional in baseball 10 years ago, they would have said, what's a super regional, right? Like, well, we don't even know what that is. And that's no offense to, anyone that was there previously. It's just, I think it's a testament to what Chris Pollard has taken them in a quantum leap. So let me, I'm going to see if I can get Patrick in here. I think his handle is Pebert. There you are, Patrick.
I'm excited about this. This is new frontier.
I know. Let's see if we can pull it off, Fitzy. I Googled it and everything, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited. Fitzy, before as we get going, you can finish the thought. Oh my gosh, we got 3
there
humans.
He is.
We got 3 humans in the live. Let's go, Pebert.
It can be done.
Show me that hat again. Oh, the Milwaukee Bucks. Didn't they boat race my Sixers last night?
They're boat racing everybody right now. Giannis is on fire.
That's good. Giannis is a pretty good athlete.
Oh my
6'10" and
goodness, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I got a picture with him with my kids, so I call him my third son. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
he's like one of the family now.
That is awesome. Look
But I
at
had to
us
put
with
on the-
three humans.
I had to put the green on. You guys were talking about St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day. I mean, I'm
Yeah, look
named
at
after
us.
the guy, so it's only appropriate that we're sitting here talking about that day. So
And just to confirm,
Well-
Patrick, you are not actually St. Patrick. You're just Patrick Ebert. Is that your
yeah,
St. Hebert?
yeah, I've been called a lot of things, but not Saint. So
I will say this: you got a heck of a hat game. I think Runes loves to comment on the hat game, and I think you've just stolen the whole season. I think you've won the season with this move.
well,
That
that's
is
good. I could grab some more, but yeah, I'll stay steady with my Bucks cap here. So yeah.
That's good. Good hat game. Hey, Patrick, before we start going series and going around the horn here, can you tell us about, and I'm going to mess, is it called U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota?
Yes. Yep. That's where the Vikings play. Yeah.
Can you describe what it's like to watch a baseball game there? I think it's so awesome that stadium, they basically, they're the Circle K of college baseball this time of year, right? They're just running college baseball games at every level 24/7. What's it like to watch a game in there?
Yeah, that's how the Metrodome was run too before they blew that thing down. But yeah, it is interesting because you can still see all the lines from the football field because the Minnesota Vikings do play there. So you have the very thick lines that show basically what's inbounds and what's out of bounds. So I got a few comments when I was posting tweets from videos and stuff from the game, just either one commenting that the field looked terrible or two asking if there was a protective netting between
Nice.
home plate and where I was sitting. And I thought the second one was kind of funny because that would be, as you guys know, that'd be quite the challenge if you were sitting back there with no net. So
No bueno.
but no, I mean for watching a game there, I think it's a great venue, mainly from the fact that if you live or have been to or spent any time of your life from the Midwest, being able to play baseball here in the months of February, March, and even April, I mean, is a gift. So if you can go indoors and make that happen and have no problems, I don't care what anything looks like or how it happens. But, I mean, it's field turf, right? So, I mean, it looks and acts just like any other field. You just have some 40, 50, 40, 30, some numbers going down the field in certain spots. But, I mean, otherwise it was fine. I mean, it was my second year in a row being there, so I kind of knew it going in. And, after kind of soaking it in for a few innings, you didn't even think about it.
Patrick, do they give you can anyone just go up and change the thermostat, or is that you need to be an authorized personnel to do that?
Yeah. See, I was there, and the weather this weekend was actually above 50. So that we're not even close to the Mendoza line of winter for us Northerners. So
Yeah.
So no thermostat adjustments were required.
That's warmer than the last time I was in Minneapolis, which was Memorial Day weekend several years back. They had the Big Ten tournament, and it was cold. That's all I remember. I don't even remember the baseball. I just remember that it was like 40 degrees, and it's the end of May. And, man, I don't know what they would do without that dome. I mean, seriously, the couple of years there, 1 or 2 years, however long it was, after the dome collapsed, the Metrodome, it was a huge blow to baseball in the whole region. I mean, it's just really a huge thing that everyone up there depends upon so much.
Target Field, Fitzy, care to comment on Target Field? I've never been. I've seen the outside. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a lot like TD Ameritrade, just a big league version with a few more maybe unique features than TD Ameritrade has. I think TD Ameritrade is intentionally kind of your boilerplate dimensions and everything because they don't want to give anybody an advantage. But Target Field, especially from the outside, it looks very similar. You can tell it was designed by the same good people over there at Populous, and it's a fantastic venue, no question, and right downtown, the heart of the action.
I love it. All right, gentlemen, let's play the feud. Let's go around and we'll preview the weekend. We're going to each name some series. We'll probably do 5 or 6 each. So, Ebert, you're the guest of honor. You're the one that wore the coolest hat. So let's have you kick us off. And I did advertise this IG Live as we are going to discuss Midwestern values. We're gonna also talk about how 5'9" is the new 6'3" because basically all three of us are about 5'9". So that I think people will just realize that after we're done dropping knowledge on them. So Ebert, give us your first series and why you're excited about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Duke and Notre Dame. I think you guys talked about it just briefly already, and you got into Notre Dame a little bit. Notre Dame currently is, ranked first in our Midwest power rankings, and, the first team from the Midwest to creep into the top 25. And, I don't think I can't say I'm surprised about it. I did the fall report. I got to talk to Link Jarrett, and it's hard not to be impressed when you guys were talking about this. It's hard not to be impressed about his knowledge and enthusiasm for the game and his team, and how much he has bought into Notre Dame. I mean, he's not just there to, have a job. I mean, he's bought into the program, and he uses that for his recruits and made Notre Dame a very, viable opportunity to recruit players to come to campus and just what it has to offer. Because, I mean, Runes, obviously you've been there, Fitzy, I'm not sure if you've been to Notre Dame or not, but I mean, it's a pretty amazing campus. Just the fact that you're on Notre Dame's campus is pretty amazing, and the team, and what they've been able to do so far has been so much fun. The pitching right now is a little more shaky. Coming into the year, I think that was a question mark, and they're not at full strength at this point in time. But Will Mercer made a Friday start last week. It looks like he's going to be their Friday guy again this week, and John Michael Bertrand's their Saturday guy, one of their transfers in the offseason. And I think that's just an interesting the way they have it set up, because then they have a pretty good bullpen, pretty good deep bullpen. Joe Sheridan returned last week and did really well in relief of Mercer. But it's the lineup. It's Nico Cavadas and Jared Miller and so many other guys, and that right now that they're just hitting the snot out of the ball. And they're so patient. They draw walks. They get base runners. They get so many opportunities for big hits that it's almost impossible for them not to cash in frequently. I just really like that team. I think it was great to kind of, reflect it similar to Duke, because it's a program that has that kind of forward helium momentum, all those, positive thinking words that you can associate with the program. But it's going to be a fun series. It's Notre Dame's first at home. It's supposed to be decent weather here in the Midwest, so that's a good sign. And at this point in time, who's gonna bet against the Irish?
God, Fitzy, that's a great breakdown on Notre Dame, Ebert, and I am. It's going to be so interesting, the ACC playing 12 series. I got to be honest with you though. I actually think Duke's going to win this series. What do you think, Fitzy?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've played well in some series that they lost. I mean, I thought even the BC series they played well. They were right in it, and I just think Duke it's kind of come together for them. I mean, we were eager to see what Henry Williams would look like. He only made, I think, one appearance last year, and then was hurt, and then the season was shut down. But I think he's the real deal. He's gives him with Cooper Stinson a really good 1-2 punch. I think he certainly would give Duke the advantage in the starting pitching category this weekend. They do have depth in the bullpen, and I think as some of those young, hard-throwing guys gain experience for Duke, they're only going to get better and better. Because right now, I mean, those guys are kind of learning the ropes a little bit, but I mean, it's real stuff. I mean, Billy Seidel comes in there, and it's mid-90s with all the premium spin rate characteristics and a knockout breaking ball, and Adam Boucher, somebody that I saw the other day, who he's got a huge arm and he's still learning the strike throwing piece. And there's several guys that kind of fit that mold, but you still have some veterans. Matt Dockman, kind of your sloppy innings lefty that's just going to come in and get outs. But I think really for Duke, the upside piece for them comes as those younger arms really mature and gain experience over the course of the season. But I think offensively, they're like Notre Dame. They're experienced. There's not a lot of easy outs. They're versatile. There is power there in the middle. I mean, you've got premier players up the middle with Ethan Murray and Michael Rothenberg. I think I'm with you, Runes. I mean, I feel like I'm a fool if I pick against Notre Dame again, because they just keep winning series. Every time,
so good.
Every time, I think we all thought, all right, well, they got off to a nice start last year, but then we're going to Chapel Hill. And I mean, is this sustainable? They go in there and sweep Carolina, and the season's canceled. Okay, we go into this season, and it's like, what is it? Clemson, they take 2 out of 3 on the road. Wake Forest on the road. Then they go to Charlottesville. I mean, they've won their last 4 ACC series since the start of last year, all on the road against teams that were favored to win those series, and they just keep winning. It's like I heard a scout say when I was at Clemson, a week or two ago. It's like, yeah, you kind of look at their team, they're like, yeah, their lineup, they're okay, but then everybody in the lineup swings at strikes and doesn't swing at balls. And like that's just how they are. They're just really tough to navigate that order.
That's awesome. Hey, I'll give you guys one more Link Jarrett quote, and then Fitzy, I'm going to get your first series. And Fitzy, why don't you and I do the ACC while we're on the topic? We'll stay there. So I asked Link Jarrett, hey, like, have you talked to your team about 12 ACC series versus 10, like the grind of it all? And Link said, yeah, I have actually talked to my team about it. I said, you guys have told me you want to go to Omaha, and to go to Omaha, you got to win a super regional. And guess what? We've got 12 of them on our schedule this year. So we'll have plenty of practice by the time we get to the super regional that we intend to go to. I thought, again, it was another Link Jarrett quote where I was like, gosh dang it, this guy is so spot on. So, Fitzy, why don't let's train. What are you going with for your series?
Yeah, so if we're talking ACC, I mean, I think all 6 of them on the schedule this week are fascinating.
Yes.
They all feature one ranked team against one unranked team, but I mean, everybody in the league so far has been ranked except for Clemson. There's 14 teams in the league, and 13 of them have been in the top 25, which is incredible. I mean, North Carolina is knocking on the door again. They were already ranked a couple weeks ago, and they fell out after losing that series to Virginia Tech. But now they go on the road. They're like basically team number 26. They're facing 24 BC. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Boston this weekend. I can't imagine it's going to be that pleasant because it's going to be like 50 degrees in Durham. So I imagine it's going to be colder farther north. But we'll see how the Tar Heels handle that. That's usually an advantage for the northern wing of the ACC when they got those warm weather teams coming up their way. But BC needs to pitch better. I mean, I think it's an elite offense. I like the depth of it probably even more than our friend David Seifert does. I've seen them on a couple of good days, and getting tough outs at the bottom of the lineup. Obviously, they have the star power. We've talked about that before, but in North Carolina's case, they're pitching really well. I mean, that's I think what's carrying them so far. Austin Love, we've talked about becoming a guy. I saw Max Alba this past Sunday against Clemson, and it was good. He was throwing strikes, 88, 91. Solid changeup, solid slider. I mean, it's not like the sexiest stuff, but he is his longest out of his career. I think he went 7 or something, or to the 8th. And you got Max Carlson, the freshman. Those are 3 good starting pitchers. So kind of with those deals, like you'd probably give North Carolina the edge in the rotation, and probably I would say the bullpen too. But you give BC the edge offensively. That's really the one thing about North Carolina that we need to see as the season progresses. Is how is that offense going to grow? And obviously Justice Thompson's a star. Danny Soretti has started to heat up a little bit, which they needed, but there's still, I think, maybe some question marks to answer for them offensively. So it's a neat matchup of kind of contrasting styles.
I love it. Austin Love, he has really come on. I always want to call him Bryce Love, who is actually a former Stanford running back who tortured Notre Dame. So I need to figure that out. I'm going to stay. So I'll give you guys an ACC series. I'm going to go. I think you're right, Fitzy. The answer is yes. Like, they're all really intriguing series. I'm going to go Georgia Tech at Wake Forest. Wake Forest, they can't be this bad. There's too much talent on this roster for them to just lay down. And now Georgia Tech, that was a really disappointing home series loss to Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh's got an old lineup, but I wouldn't say it's like they've got 7 big leaguers in that lineup. They just have an old, competent lineup, and they just, trucked you. I mean, they just ran all over you. And so I think this is a real response weekend. I know it's only weekend 4, but this is a real response weekend for the Georgia Tech pitching staff, for the Wake Forest just program. Like, hey, who are we going to be? Are we just going to be the team that everybody likes in the preseason and then, not so much in the season? So that's the one I'm going to give you guys, but you're right, Fitzy. All of them are fascinating.
Yeah, that one is, you're right. It's gut check really for both those teams, and especially for Georgia Tech coming off a weekend where their pitchers really took a beating, and now you get to go to a really offensive yard against a team that has a bunch of guys that can drive it out of the ballpark. We'll see what those guys are made of, and we'll see what Wake Forest is made of. I mean, they had the Menendez injury we've talked about. There's a couple other guys that are out for the year. Kendall and Crum, a couple of position players that were in the mix heading into the year. So they're not as strong as we thought they would be heading into the year. Just their roster, they've had some losses, but we'll see. They're still plenty good. I mean, they're still plenty deep. I mean, let's see them respond with their backs to the wall now in a big series at home.
Yeah, Wake Forest didn't just lose a pitcher there, Fitzy. They lost a pitcher who is a slot shifter, who has a name, Tony Menendez, where he could have been a character in The Godfather, for God's sake. So that is a massive blow. But I digress. Ebert, let's keep moving. What is your series number 2?
Series 2, I'm going to go with Michigan hosting both Illinois and Michigan State in a pod format. So we got
pod format.
Hashtag pod format. So I've seen one pod format last weekend at US Bank Stadium where you actually had a traditional series being played along with a 3-team pod. I know Fitt got the chance to see Michigan State that first weekend, and they obviously came out and surprised and did so. But last week, they got beat. They got beat by Northwestern, lost. Now they even their record to an even 4-4. We're going to have our Burke Granger at that series. I'm really interested to get his thoughts because now we've seen Illinois twice, so got a pretty good feel about them. I want to know how for real Michigan State is, and I also want to know if Michigan is as good as we think they are, because coming into the year and all the off-season preparations, I thought for sure Michigan would be in the top 25, and I'm not trying to take a shot across the bow with the ranking works you guys do, but that
was Kendall's fault.
That was really, really, really good team, and I'll blame Kendall too, and he can take that kind of trouble.
It's actually the opposite, but hey, whatever. Eat it, Kendall. Wear it.
Yeah.
Wear it.
But I watched them the first weekend. The defense is so good. They have some really key transfers on that team. The pitching staff is deep. They got some guys like Willie Weiss and Ben Dragani back from injury. So you add them with transfers, with new guys, the sophomores that didn't play last year. This is a really good Michigan team. And if they're going to play as good as we think they can be, that they're going to stay in the top 25 all season, and they're going to dominate that Big Ten. But, again, we want to see it for ourselves. We want to see it happen on the field. We want to see it happen against two quality teams. And so far, so good. They're 7-1, and they're looking really good while doing it.
I love it. That is well said. Fitzy, why don't you take us to series number 2 for you?
Well, it's we'll get to the SEC, but, it's also opening weekend in the Big 12. And so I want to give some love over there. We've got, I guess some of the Big 12. Oklahoma State and Texas. And this is a marquee, Texas Tech rather. This is a marquee series this weekend. You got number 14 Cowboys against number 7 Red Raiders. Texas Tech is red hot, after that rough start the first weekend against the SEC West. I mean, I don't think they've lost yet. And they just swept UConn in a 4-game series, a couple of good wins against Gonzaga. This is becoming the team that we thought it would be. And it is a scary offensive club, as always, with a lot of power arms. I think they're frankly constructed similarly to Arkansas. And we've seen how good Arkansas is, number 1 in the country, and this is a neat matchup, and we'll see how Oklahoma State rebounds after losing that home series to Vanderbilt. I think that experience will only benefit them certainly in the long term, and and they won that series finale. And Rose, you just saw Oklahoma State. How do you think they stack up in this matchup?
Yeah, I think without Huey Morrill, and who needs to play shortstop so they can move the Hewitt kid back to catcher to tag team with Mathis, and without Carson McCusker, who really is a guy 6'8" right-handed hitter who could take advantage of that homer dome at Texas Tech. I worry about that a little bit. I do think you nailed it, Fitzy. That was a great experience for Oklahoma State. They're way more talented on the mound than normal. They're always good on the mound. They're always skilled on the mound, but they got real dudes like Justin Robleski. This is a lefty up to 96 who, he had to grow through some things last week, and this week won't be any easier. But I think I'm fascinated. I think these are the two teams that are ultimately going to win the Big 12. It's going to be one of these two teams, in my opinion. It reminds me of that epic super regional they had there in 2019, where all 3 of those games came down to the last pitch of the game is on the line. So I wish they were playing this series a month and a half from now for Oklahoma State's sake, but they're not. And I think if you made me pick somebody, I'd pick Tech, just because Oklahoma State, I don't know how healthy they are yet, but I think this is kind of a preview of the Big 12 championship, honestly.
Yeah, and they're probably catching Texas Tech at not the time you want to catch Texas Tech, because they are hot as a firecracker. And you look at some of the the names in that lineup, I mean, Young and Conley and Baker, I mean, it seems like every time you look up, one of these guys has 4 hits. And, they're just one of those offenses that it's contagious once the ball starts rolling downhill.
Yep. All right, cool.
Hey, Runes,
go ahead.
Runes,
Go ahead, Ebert.
did Osmond pitch last weekend?
He did, and he looked better. The problem for Bryce Osmond is, the athleticism is off the charts. The arm talent is very strong. He does stab the ball in the back a little bit, so I'm not sure how consistent of a strike thrower he's going to be. Like, is he going to spot up? But the stuff is great. Feel for spin. I mean, I think he could be a monster reliever. But here's his problem. Justin Campbell has been dominant on Tuesdays. And so I think they might be thinking about, do we move Campbell to the rotation and then Osmond becomes like this silver bullet reliever on our way to Brett Stanley? But anyway, Osmond clearly knew he was kind of pitching for his spot on Sunday against Vanderbilt, and he was very good. Really competitive. The stuff was great. I mean, he was good. I mean, again, that to me speaks to the situation in Oklahoma State. They got some real pitching now. Like this is a go to Omaha pitching staff, and their position player group is fine. So, but he was good, Ebert. It was his best start of the year. He wasn't. I'll tell you this. He didn't throw like 96, 97 like we know he's capable of. He actually pitched. Most of the pitches were 90 to 92, but he was just in good counts and throwing strikes and suffocating the strike zone. It was like a light went off for him, that pitchability with, kind of 85% of his electric stuff is probably the right mix. So he was good. Yep.
Cool.
Hey, let me take us out west, guys. So they open up Pac-12 play this weekend, and I want to go ASU at Oregon. Now, ASU, they just keep getting bad news. Eric Tolman is also going to have Tommy John surgery, but they also keep winning. And, they haven't played a bunch of dogs either. And so Oregon is the team that we're trying to figure out. Oregon's middle of that lineup: Kenyon Yovan, Gabe Matthews, Aaron Savala. Now the Smith kid, Tanner Smith, is raking. I mean, this is a real headache. ASU, even with the loss of their pitchers, they've got depth on the mound. That Jason Kelly's really done a great job building length in that pitching staff. I'm fascinated to see. Here's my bottom line with this series, guys. I still feel like I don't know these two teams that well yet. Like I've seen a lot of them, but I'm not ready to make a conclusion. So I think this is a series that's it's another data point for these two teams. I will say this: I do think they're both regional teams. I am convicted there. I just, Oregon's pitching rotation, I just wasn't sure about. It's been fine so far. It's been good. So anyway, I think that's ASU at Oregon's going to be really interesting for me. So yes, Ebert. Oh, go ahead.
And Runes, just to keep it in the Pac-12 for a minute here, I mean, one of the other marquee series of the weekend, of course, is Arizona at UCLA,
yes.
Which is the one I had kind of circled as the series of the year in the Pac-12 heading into the season. And it's funny, we kind of thought UCLA was by far the best team in the West, and I still believe they will be when it's said and done, but they haven't been so far. I mean, they've lost two of their 4 series. Lost series to San Francisco and a series to Cal Poly. And, the pitching in particular has not been really what we expected it to be. And I'm wondering if this is the weekend for those guys to get right when you've got Arizona coming to town.
Good luck with that.
But at least it's at home, Yes. I mean, and I don't know that's if that's probably not the place where Arizona is built to win. I mean, it's a totally different environment. And maybe this is the weekend that UCLA kind of makes a statement. But I mean, I have no idea what to expect, because certainly Arizona is explosive, and I feel like even though they're actually out of the top 25 right now, they've been a little up and down. I still feel like they've had the better season to this point than UCLA has, and they could go in there and put up some runs, and they could make the statement. So that's what I'm going to be watching closely.
Arizona's offense is like the movie Gremlins. You start feeding those things, and you got a horror movie on your hands is what you have. I mean, you give them any free passes, walks, errors. That offense is so relentless. It's really crazy. So, yeah, that's a fascinating one. Ebert, so I'm going to go, let's come back to you. What are you going for series number 3?
Yeah, I got to say, first of all, it's crazy to think, like Big 12, Pac-12, SEC's all starting this weekend. We've we've been watching the ACC beat up each other all year so far. It's just kind of fascinating that we're already here at this point and kind of already feeling like it's a fresh start. But I'm going to go back to the Heartland. I got Nebraska at Iowa, which if we're talking a series, like if this was a football game the day after Thanksgiving, which is when they always play, I mean, these are two states, these are two groups of people. They don't like each other at all. And I lived in Iowa for a few years, and I can firmly say that, I stayed out of that rivalry, but these people don't like each other. They're on the roads, they're passing each other. You see a lot of finger gestures and, different types of waving and pointing. Yeah, the number one. Yeah, gave him the wrong number. But yeah, I saw Nebraska last week, and I saw Iowa too. I want to see how these teams do in a traditional 3-game series, especially when you're going to have a winner, you're going to have a loser, unless something strange happens. Nebraska looked really good. I thought them splitting against both Ohio State and Iowa was actually a big win for them. Sure. I thought Cade Povich looked especially good on Friday night. And I'd watched a little video of him from the Friday before, and he looked the same through 3 innings, and then the wheels kind of fell off. But this time he sustained it through 6, struck out 12. Really interesting prospect. Spencer Schwellenbach is legit. He's healthy. He's hitting. He came in to face one batter to close out a game against Iowa, and he struck out Peyton Williams, who was nursing a bad hammy, and just came in to face Schwellenbach. But Max Anderson, for Nebraska, and I mentioned this in my report. I was watching Alex Gordon in 2003 at the Metrodome, take his first swings against kind of like national competition back when they had the Dairy Queen Classic. And it was hard not to think of Gordon when I'm watching Anderson, just that type of impact he's made so quickly. I'm not saying he's the same type of prospect. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that impact he's had right away has been really impressive.
Is he a left-handed hitter or right-handed hitter?
He's a right-handed hitter. So, so unlike Gordon. But, you mentioned before, Runes, like a team that can win in a variety of ways on offense. This team can play small ball. This team can hit the ball over the fence. They have probably just enough pitching to let their offense do their thing and keep them in games. And then on the flip side, you have Iowa, who's kind of constructed a little differently, where you have more pitching depth. The lineup is pretty solid, but they're not swinging the bats very well right now. So I think it's a good weekend for both of those teams to continue to build what they can do. It's just a matter of whether or not they will do it.
Yeah, I love it.
And I feel like both those teams are in that. For me, it's like top 7 in the Big Ten. Where I have a hard time separating them. And I know you like Michigan a lot. I like Indiana the most personally, but it feels like to me those two teams are maybe just a tick above everybody else. But I don't think there's a huge gap between those two. And kind of that next tier, the Iowas and the Nebraskas, and I believe Maryland will get going. I know they haven't had a great start, but I really like their starting pitching and kind of the star power in the lineup. And so I think for me, they're in that tier. I'm not quite sure what to make of Illinois right now. I saw them in a bad week. I saw their 3 losses, the first 3 games of the year. They didn't look great, but it seems like they kind of righted the ship a little bit, so maybe they're still in that group. Michigan State, is a factor with their, some of their frontline arms. So I just think the thing I'm worried about for the Big Ten is I think there are enough real good teams. Northwestern is clearly better than we thought they would be, or I thought they would be. There are enough good teams that are just going to give everybody headaches, and I think it's going to be hard for anyone to run away with the league. If you think Michigan is going to dominate the league and be a top 25 team all year long, I'll take that bet because I just think the league's too competitive for that.
I love it.
And Rutgers is moving up too.
Yeah.
So they're on the rise as well. So, yeah, good points.
I love it. Hey, I'm going to give you guys a quick one and we'll keep moving. So there are 3 series this weekend between Conference USA and the Valley, the Missouri Valley. And I think that's fascinating because these are both leagues that fight to be multi-bid leagues and actually pull it off quite often. And so the series that I circled is Missouri State at Southern Miss. Southern Miss is off to a very good start. Missouri State's off to an okay start, but I think Missouri State's dangerous because they're very old and they're very well coached. And so, that I think is really fascinating. Hebert, I think you might even come back to another one of these Conference USA versus the Valley matchups. But I don't know. I think that's when these two, they just are randomly facing off 3 times in the same weekend. And I think, that could be a data point for the committee at the end. We'll see. So that's what I got. I got Missouri State at Southern Miss. I would pick Southern Miss, but I think it's Missouri State. They're sneaky. That's a really good college baseball program. So Fitzy, let me come back to you for Series 4. What are you going with?
Well, I think by now we probably need to go ahead and talk about the SEC.
Right.
Did you guys hear the SEC is opening up this weekend? It's
That's right.
kind of a big deal. Although it's funny, I mean, I don't feel like this is really a marquee slate of games for opening weekend in the SEC. You only have one matchup between two teams ranked in the top 25. That's Mississippi State at LSU. So I think we should start there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, as always, it feels like with that matchup, it's a very fascinating series. It sounds like, did I hear Bednar is moving into the rotation for Mississippi State?
Correct.
Which he came out of the bullpen was 4 strong innings last week. So they just they have a lot of options. Sarantola pitched very well for them. Efficient through strikes, which is a big development there. You have Jackson Fristow, who's been so good, and of course you've got McLeod at the front. So be kind of curious to see how their pitching shapes up over the course of the long season, because they have tons of arms. I just want to see how they're going to use them. What role are they going to put them in? And this is this LSU team, it's like it's hard to get a read on them. This is one where it's like they're 15-3, and we've talked about it before. It's like they've seemed kind of shaky here and there. I mean, they had to really fight to win this series against UTSA, a 10-9 win, a 13-12 win, and kept the bats rolling against Southeastern in midweek, scored 10 runs. So maybe that young offense is really kind of growing up in a hurry, and they're going to give Mississippi State a good test. But I'll be honest, I thought pitching was going to carry LSU, and it's been a little bit up and down so far. And certainly, I don't know what to expect from Jaden Hill at this point. That's one of those guys that's just a wild card. He's one of the most talented players in the country, and let's see if he can do it now in the SEC. He really hadn't had a chance to do that as a starting pitcher before.
I love it. That will be fascinating. Yeah, they did move Bednar into the rotation. That's going to be. There's a really cool picture on Twitter where John Cohen is taking a swing, the athletic director at Mississippi State, former baseball coach, when he played at Mississippi State, and then the catcher for LSU is Mike Bianco, who was the catcher for LSU. It's really cool. I think Ben McDonald's Twitter handle has got his hands on it somehow. So, hey, Peebert, you give me your 4th series, and I'll go my 4th.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the SEC, and I do have the 2 MVC, the 2 Missouri Valley schools, but the one thing I think is fascinating, the SEC kicking off, and Aaron talked about LSU, Mississippi State, is, for all these ranked teams, that's the only one with 2 ranked teams in it, which is just crazy when you think about it, because covering the SEC the past few years, it seemed like every weekend there was 2 or 3 of these match opponents. Now we're seeing that in the ACC. So, but I'm looking at Bama, Arkansas, and for me, it's just that program shift at Alabama and how great of a job they've been doing, the start they got off to last year, the start they're off to this year. However, we haven't seen them do it in the SEC, and they get a huge test against number 1 Arkansas. And I think that series is just fascinating. And even if Alabama doesn't win that series, if they take one game and if they play competitively, I think that still speaks a lot for how that culture has changed there. And, you look at the team, and, a lot of my focus is on the Midwest, so I'm not looking at what other teams are doing too often, but I still look. And that starting pitching is just unbelievable. And they're doing it without my Wisconsin boy, Connor Prelip, out there. The lineup, they have a few guys with 3, 4, 5, 6 home runs. Just from top to bottom, from my perspective, it looks like a pretty well-run team. I know they got a great recruiter at the top in Bohannon, and I don't know. I want, for as much as I like Arkansas, for as much as I love the Bob Moore references, like I'm rooting for some Bama this weekend, just because that's a program that if they do this and if they kind of get over that hump, I mean that's huge. That's big for them.
I see Brock Jones in the chat, by the way, who's one of my favorite new players in college baseball, who's killing it for Stanford. So I see you, Brock, and I'm excited. And we're excited about your start. So go ahead, Fitzy. I cut you off there.
Yeah, I just want to interject because to correct myself. So there's actually another series between 2 ranked teams in the SEC this week. It's South Carolina, number 16, against number 2 Vandy. I don't want to. I forgot that one. That's another interesting matchup. Gamecocks have their hands full with all those right-handed hitters facing Kumar and Leiter the first 2 days. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? That's a great segue, Fitzy, because that was one of my series. And for South Carolina, they got swept at Texas. Now they got to go to Vandy, like you mentioned. I mean, let's just be honest. Kumar and Leiter are not a good matchup for anybody. South Carolina is very right-handed, and then they're going to have to play the Gators the week after. Then they're going to have to go to Georgia the week after. So, that's life in the SEC East right now. That's life in the SEC. But, we do need to see South Carolina get off the mat. And it does appear that Vanderbilt's a little bit vulnerable on Sunday. So maybe if you can find a way to beat Rocker or Leiter, I don't see how you could sweep Vandy the way they're currently constructed. But, it's not about sweeps. It's about winning series. So very fascinated to see that one. Fitzy, let me come back to your fifth series. What are you going with?
Well, I want to stick one more with the SEC here. I'm on my way down to Athens tomorrow for this Tennessee-Georgia series, which I think is a pretty interesting matchup, really. I mean, Georgia has kind of quietly gotten off to a very strong start because they haven't played, high-end competition yet, so they're 13-3. So we don't really know how good they are, but the fact that Jonathan Cannon is back from that mono and pitched well this past weekend, and Ryan Webb is healthy and pitching well, and you get the freshman Wagner, who pitched very well, a guy that they really like, an athletic 2A guy, a left-handed pitcher, it's polished, and they've done a really good job increasing the talent level at that place, and and so far, even with some of the losses that they've had in the lineup, I mean, it seems like they're hitting as well, and this is my first look at Tennessee this year as well, and I don't think Jackson Leaf is going to pitch this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But so we'll see how their pitching holds up here in a big conference road series. I mean, it's a fun matchup.
We got hashtag Road Fitzy. Let's go. Get them on the road.
This is
Road Warrior.
Day one of I think about a 10-day, 9 games in 10 days road trip. I'm going to make my way through Alabama after this. I'm going to catch a couple of those Thursday, Friday games. Alabama and Ole Miss, and then I'm going to go to Starkville for Arkansas and Mississippi State for Saturday, Sunday next weekend. So be a good trip.
That's what that's why we say Aaron Fitt, man or machine.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Send that jerky over here. Keep me going.
I'm always
Peter,
so
you
jealous.
go. You go. By the way,
I'm always so jealous when I hear about the road trips, like the one you took in the fall. It's just
it's awesome.
So you got your COVID shot, and you're good. Just go.
That's right.
Yes. Peter, do you want to couple your two MVC series?
I am, yeah, because I'm not going to go super detailed. I just, Indiana State and Southern Illinois and the job both those teams are doing. And like, first of all, what team wants to face Southern Illinois right now, just with that offense they have? I mean,
no pitching coaches want to be there.
Yeah, no, just stay away from them. Just so many guys are just hitting the snot out of the ball. They're hitting the ball all over the place. They suffered their first loss Sunday, I think. So they're now 14-1, which is it's just crazy. I mean, the Salukis are just tearing it up.
Coach Rhodes.
And then you have Indiana State, who has already split at Tennessee, and then they went down to Florida. They swept Florida International. They beat Florida Gulf Coast midweek, and then they took 2 of 3 from Florida Atlantic. I mean, that's an incredible road swing for Indiana State, and their veteran left-handed pitcher by the name of Jeremy Guerrero right now is he's pitching
Garbage.
So incredible, and he kind of got stuck in that role because their projected ace Tristan Weaver was a little dinged up at the beginning of the year. Wasn't full 100%. He made a second appearance last weekend, but Guerrero has just been striking out double digits guys every time he takes the mound, and I got to give it up for the Sycamores and the Salukis right now because they're playing great. And if you talk to Mitch Hannes of Indiana State, like he and actually I think Stitch profiled them this past week, and he's told me the same things. He just keeps talking about how bad his team and how much he doesn't like his team, and it's kind of like, what are you nuts? Like
hashtag coach speak.
Yeah, exactly. So no, they're playing really well, both those teams.
I love it. Hey, boys, the Instagram will cut us off at an hour, so I'm going to do rapid fire. I'm just going to run through some series real quick. So, hey, Long Beach opens their series up, or this season up this weekend at Hawaii. Who's 8-2. UCSB goes to Fullerton. The Big West going to get interesting. 2 Big 12 series that are intriguing to me. Houston at Oklahoma. Has Oklahoma righted the ship with that win over Arkansas? Coastal Carolina goes to West Virginia. West Virginia better get something going here. This could be a defining resume moment for Coastal.
Gut check.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. San Diego at St. Mary's. It's kind of two teams that have really been good in the WCC. I've got Washington State at Oregon State is a really intriguing series. Those are two teams that were really good in the non-conference. And my final one, boys, is Wright State plays UIC, which these two teams kind of duke it out for the horizon quite often. So this is awesome. Like every conference is starting to rev up, which gets the juices flowing. We got Fitzy going on a 10-day road trip. Ebert, it was awesome having you in here. Gentlemen, well done. This was fun.
Love it. This is fantastic work. The debut appearance of the D1 bucket hat. This is a historic moment that
And
our
three
readers and
humans.
listeners.
Three.
And
like,
three
you got
humans.
Three. That's right here.
Double history right there. The tri-box and the D1 bucket cap.
Tri-box.
Tri-box.
Look at you, Fitzy. TV term. Tri-box right there. That's American television for you. Hey, gentlemen, have an awesome weekend. Great. Appreciate you catching up with us tonight.
You too, Runes.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, boys. Good night. See ya.
Bye-bye.